Hey hikers, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know I'm currently enrolling for my signature 12-week program, the Online Summit Program. I'm looking specifically for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free so they can conquer every adventure without having to do hours and hours of exercise every single week. If that sounds like you and you have a significant adventure in your sights, or if you deal with some type of foot, knee, or back issue on the trail, or you simply want to get in a better physical and mental position to be able to properly enjoy your weekly adventures, please shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook with the words, "I'm interested." We can have a chat and see if or how might be a good fit for your goals, and if or how you might be a good fit for the program, and then we can go from there. So shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook and let's make it happen. So today I want to share with you an embarrassing admission about my hiking. When I've been out hiking recently, I'm getting really huffed and puffed on hills. Now, I know that's a bit of a terrible thing to admit, and it does take a little bit of saying, but in all honesty, it's the truth. Now, this isn't always the case for me. But right now, it really is something that I'm struggling with a little bit, and it definitely is impacting my enjoyment on the trail. So this first came about a few weeks ago when I went out for my first decent day of hiking since COVID began. I've done many months stuck at home, a couple more months of just laying low, and then it came the opportunity where I was just going to head out to my local national park with a few good mates I hadn't seen in a while. Now, the trail we chose wasn't anything too crazy. It was about, I think it was about 4 hours. It was mostly flat, and then it had the occasional moderate climb. And, throughout the most of the hike, I was fine. I was cruising along the flat, not having any issues. Legs were fine, feet were fine, just having a good time with my mates. But every time those inclines came around, where it was a little bit steeper, I was getting pretty out of breath pretty quickly. And this put me in a tricky spot, because as a trainer, I did not want my mates to hear that I was huffing and puffing, because I honestly knew I would never hear the end of it. So I did my best to really carry on with my conversation like nothing happening. I tried to really breathe as quietly as I could, and I really just concentrated on trying to get through it without anyone actually noticing. And, in those situations, it was tough, and it just wasn't much fun, to say the least. Just sort of being self-conscious about this breathing and really have to put my focus there as opposed to just enjoying myself out on the trail. And you might be thinking right now, hearing me say this, why would a personal trainer who specializes in hikers, who spends his days talking about things like this, who has the answers for people preparing for trails, why would he be getting out of breath when going up hills? Isn't that what I help with people with? And if that's running through your mind right now, that is fair enough. The honest answer, and there's no denying it, is my training and my exercise has been pretty rubbish over COVID. Motivation levels have been low. Accessibility, I like to train in the gym. Accessibility to that's been a bit average. Consistency has been something I've been struggling with. Mindset, for whatever reason, I've just been in a weird headspace about actually getting out and exercising. And then also just not having a locked in goal is something which does make things a bit more difficult for me. And since the start of COVID, my training has been pretty hit and miss. And, it's not that big a deal when I'm just walking around the local neighborhood, just having a good time. But when I got on the trail, it was pretty evident that something was lacking. And I know, and the reason why I'm talking about this today, is that this situation isn't unique to me. I know many hikers out there struggle with this. And while they're fine on the flat and can hike for hours and hours without any issues, the minute they come across some elevation, they just turn into a red-faced, huffing and puffing mess. But there is one major difference between myself and most hikers who do find themselves in this situation. I know exactly what I need to do to fix this. I know the specific training, the workouts, and the exercises which will best transfer over to this challenge on the trail. I know the exact things I need to do in my week, and I know if I put my head down and get consistent with my training, I can make a dramatic difference to my own comfort and performance while hiking uphill in as little as 4 weeks. And I can honestly say that I can turn those ascents and any other ascents I may come across into a walk in the park. Now, you might be asking, how do I know this? Well, listening to this podcast, it should be pretty obvious. This is what I do every week. Over the last few years of helping specifically hikers and mountaineers, I've helped dozens and dozens of hikers in this exact situation, and I've honed in my training systems pretty much to the T. So today, based off all this and my recent experience, I want to share with you the basics of my approach to overcoming getting huffed and puffed on inclines, particularly in a very short time frame. Now, I know I've talked about this in a previous episode, and a lot of this may be familiar, but people coming out of lockdown now, people getting back on the trail, I think it's about time we retouched on this subject, because if I'm going through it, I'm sure plenty of other people are going through it as well. And when it comes down to it, if you follow the following advice and put your head down and stay consistent with this training system, any hiker, regardless of what situation you're in, can really make a genuine change to your comfort going uphill in 4 weeks. If you stick with it for 8 weeks, you can see an absolutely amazing change. And if you stick with it for 12 weeks and continue on this progress and keep on with this system, you will be blown away at the absolute difference you feel when you're going uphill on the trail. So if you do get out of breath on hills, here are 3 things I think every single hiker should be doing in their week. Now, number 1, and I've talked about these many times on the podcast before, are aerobic power intervals. Now, these are some of my absolute favorite interval training for hikers, and particularly when you're leading into uphill hiking, they transfer over so well. So essentially how you do them, you want to find yourself at some type of cardio activity in which you can push yourself at a pretty quick pace and you don't really have to think. So my favorites here are doing it on the stationary bike or on a cycling bike around the local area. Maybe you might do it on the elliptical or the cross trainer in your gym. You might do, if you're a runner, you can do running intervals on a slight incline. If you can do it on swimming, but really anything that you can sort of push yourself and get huffed and puffed in a safe way. Essentially what you're going to do, you're going to set yourself up, have a bit of a warm up, and then you go really quick for 2.5 minutes. So in that time, you want to find a resistance or an intensity in which you start to get huffed and puffed, but your legs aren't really holding you back. They might get a little bit burny, but they're not the thing that's failing. It's more you're huffing and puffing. You want to go really fast for 2.5 minutes. You want to have a rest for 90 seconds, and then you'll repeat that anywhere from 5 to 10 times. At the end of each of those 2.5 minute intervals, you should be pretty huffed and puffed. You don't have to kill yourself, but you should be pretty huffed and puffed. Now, these are really specific intervals for this particular thing, and essentially what they're working is the top end of your aerobic energy system and try and develop that and make it a bit more efficient and a bit more powerful. And it's essentially developing the power of your aerobic energy system, and that's why they're called aerobic power intervals. Do them once a week, and then every single week go a little bit quicker, add an extra set, and that will make a really amazing difference over 4 weeks. If you stick with them for 8 weeks, even more. If you're sticking with them for 12 weeks, you are going to be feeling amazing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is really simply, you need to be doing some type of long, steady state cardio in your week. So what I mean by this is, as I've said many times before, you just need to be doing longer duration, low intensity exercise to prepare for hiking. Now, most people will do this hiking, so if you do have the opportunity to go out hiking every single week, that's probably a good thing, and absolutely go ahead with that. If you don't have that opportunity, you've got to make it up somewhere else during your week. So this might be loaded pack walking around the local neighborhood or on a treadmill. This might be doing stair sessions at a very low intensity. This might involve just walking on a beach. This might involve doing a light cycle, like jog, something like that. You basically want to be doing one of these sessions once a week, so it could be any of those options, something that's going to take you 90 minutes or more, ideally, and then you probably want to do another one during your week, which might be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. That one doesn't have to be too long, but you want to fit that in. So long, steady state cardio is definitely essential in this situation. And then number 3, which you probably guessed by now, which I haven't mentioned, is you want to be doing your strength training. You know, strength training, I've said so many times over these 100 so episodes on this podcast, is absolutely essential. And if you're in this situation where you're getting huffed and puffed on hills, strength training is going to be transferring over quite effectively. Now, specifically, 3 exercises which I really like for this are, number 1, step-ups. Now, step-ups, pretty standard for a hiker to do, and most hikers are pretty familiar with. What I like to do in this situation is try to get relatively heavy step ups. So in that, you might be holding a couple of dumbbells, you might be holding a heavy pack, you might even have a barbell on your back, and you're doing small step ups. So the height of the steps about halfway to 3/4 up your shin. And then you're just doing sets of anywhere from 4 to maybe 8 repetitions as a maximum, and it wants to be relatively tough. Now, most hikers out there will be familiar with step ups, but they'll do things like 10, 15, 20, 30 reps, whatever it may be, which is very, very beneficial. But I highly recommend giving those heavier step ups a go. Do 4 weeks of them, you'll be feeling great. The other exercise that really transfers well over here are squats, in the sense the best exercise, the best way to do these is some type of front squat. So if you've got a barbell which you can hold at the front of your shoulders, or if you can't hold a barbell, maybe a dumbbell at the front of you, just sitting on your chest in a goblet squat. Again, in this situation, you probably want to be looking at something relatively heavier, so anywhere from 6 to 8 repetitions, maybe 4 if you're really experienced, but giving yourself a bit of challenge there. Now, the beauty of holding the weight at your front is essentially that really, really cleans up most people's form, and it'll really target the quadriceps, but also it'll stop you falling over yourself and it'll stop the lower back taking more weight than it should, which often happens when you've got a barbell on your back. So adding in some squats in there as well. And then the third thing that really, really plays off in this situation is your calf raises. Now, I'll admit they're probably not specific for getting huffed and puffed on the hills, but they certainly can make you more comfortable. And again, you want to be thinking, getting relatively heavy with these things. So with a dumbbell, with a pack on your back, or a barbell on your back, doing something that might be from 8 to 12 repetitions, or something that's a bit of a challenge with your calf raises. Now, those 3 exercises should be part of a larger strength training program. So you probably want to fill that out with things like single leg deadlifts and glute bridges and mini band walks and all of that. But those 3 exercises really, really tie into uphill hiking specifically. And then if you can get these exercises strong, every single step you're going to take is going to require less effort and less energy, and therefore your huffing and puffing is going to be a little bit more comfortable. But if you do struggle with getting out of breath, going up hills, and you can put a solid 4 weeks of training around those 3 things that I mentioned, you will see some great, great, great results. And, I'm sort of considering doing the same thing in my training. See if I have to book in a longer hike to actually force myself to do it for motivation reasons. But I know if I put my head down, it will work for me, and I know it will work for you. But if you did struggle with this and you wanted some extra help to get you in the best physical position for your time on the trail, there is a really easy and simple solution to your problem. Now, this week, I'm looking to take on 5 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free over the next 12 weeks so they can conquer every adventure. If that's you, I would love if you could find me on Facebook or Instagram, shoot me a message just saying tell me more, and I'll send you over some details. We can have a chat and see if we're a good fit to work together. I would strongly urge you to reach out if you struggle with this, because you'll be surprised how much you can accomplish over 12 weeks if you follow a structured, specific, and individualized training program for your hiking goals. So please do reach out, and I cannot wait to talk to you. Have a good one. Bye.